Okay. My number one thing, this is going to sound maybe silly, but my number one thing that I always bring with me on the trail.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to TBN Offroad. Today we are going to walk you through everything that you need to go on a wheeling trip. We're going to start with our top 10 essentials.
And then you guys will join me later tonight as I pack for a day trip tomorrow and see what I bring in Ronin.
And then Annie's going to come out here and tell you everything that she likes to bring with her as a passenger. Let's get after it.
All right, Seth, let's walk through the top 10 essentials a new wheeler should bring with them.
All right, number one thing is a first aid kit. It might sound silly because you're like, I'm going to go off-road. What do I need a first aid kit for? I have used these. We've all used these multiple times on the trail. This is a very small, compact one. I've seen guys with like huge medic kits. Just your basic stuff. A bee sting, you cut your finger, you got to clean it out. A burn, like on exhaust or something like that. I don't have all that stuff in here, but I've got the essentials. So most events or club rides, if you're riding with an off-road club, will require you to have this. And then the next thing is going to be a fire extinguisher. So these are really cheap to go pick up at like Walmart. They're less than 30 bucks. I've got mine on a quick release, and I'll show you here in a little bit in the Jeep. They make all kinds of attachments for these. So you want to make sure it's accessible from the driver's seat and it's not hidden all the way in the back where you can't get to it and somebody else has to physically come out and get it from your Jeep.
You also want to make sure it's locked down so it's not rattling around in the back.
Right. We hate rattles.
Yes.
Unless you're Corey and you just throw stuff in the back of the Jeep. So number 3 on our list is a tire repair kit. So again, cheap, Amazon, just a basic plug kit. If you want to get something a little more than this, I've got it. I don't know if you guys carry the glue tread. So that's going to be a sidewall patch. I can't get this zipped up.
And you guys watched us use that in Black Mountain on Seth's Jeep. So a plug kit really comes in handy.
It's basically a piece of rubber that you cut to fit whatever slashed to your sidewall, and it comes with essentially super glue, and it just kind of glues the patch on there, holds the tire together to at least get you off the trail. Next is all of our recovery gear. You guys can get online and you can go to Factor 55 and you can buy some really high quality stuff, or you can go on Amazon and buy some Chinese stuff. Do not buy the Chinese stuff. If you're going to spend money on anything that's on this table, these two things and your recovery gear, because this stuff can actually hurt you if you don't do this right. So our kind of basics, just a good set of gloves, especially if you're dealing with metal cable. You can get frayed pieces of metal, rusty cable, stuck in your hand. So a good set of gloves. We'd recommend having a synthetic winch line on your winch. I've got a fancy snatch block here. You can get one of these in a different style. You don't necessarily need one, but if you are trying to pull at a different angle that's not directly in front of your Jeep, these come in handy. We've got soft shackles. Again, these are Factor 55. These, as much metal as you can take out of the system, the better. So you've got your basic D-rings on most Jeeps and aftermarket bumpers. Those are acceptable. Make sure they're rated, they're not a Chinese 3/4 ton rating.
Yeah.
But the soft shackle will still hook up to your aftermarket bumpers. You can put them through like a Reese hitch. And again, it's rated for the weight that you need, and it keeps all that metal out of the system. They make all kinds of sizes and diameters of these. I don't remember what these are, but a good one, a real one with all this stuff will have an actual weight tag on it. If you buy the aftermarket ones, sometimes they don't have that. So look for that. This is a 7/16 by 10 inch, Factor 55. And then I broke my own rule, and I did buy an Amazon tree saver. And of all the things I'd say to skimp on, maybe this, but honestly, just buy some nice stuff. This, you're going to wrap around a tree, hook your winch line or your soft shackle to it, and it saves the tree. You never want to hook the winch line around the tree because you can end up killing the tree.
And go with at least a 6-foot or 8-foot tree saver.
Yes.
Don't try and go for the 3-foot because, again, the bigger the tree that you can winch off of, the better. So a 6-foot or an 8-foot, if you have to use a 30-footer like toe strap, you can wrap it around a couple times to make it work. But when it comes to tree savers, again, at least an 8-footer.
Yeah. And then your winch controller.
Batteries for your winch controller.
Exactly. So this has a battery in it. This is a Smitty built one. It's wireless. Some of the, maybe the Badlands and stuff, I think they even have the wireless ones now, but this has a backup where you can actually plug a cable into the controller and put it in your winch. If it's not a big thing with all the cable that is hard to lose, These are easy to just leave at your house and forget, and then you get on the trail and you need a winch and you don't have a winch controller. So make sure that's charged up and ready to go. Next is tools. And we're going to talk about this, Mason especially, when you go over his stuff of kind of the essentials in his tool pack. I bring an obnoxious amount of tools because over the years I just keep adding to my kit. You've got a little more
the way we've started stacking on tools is, what am I about to break, or what have I already broken on the trail and I couldn't fix and had to borrow someone else's tools to fix it? So then it gets added to my list.
Yeah. So and I think here in a little bit we're going to walk you guys through a more in-depth of our toolkit, but just an essential toolkit. Yeah, a socket, an impact gun if you have it, hammers, big pliers, anything that you're going to need to essentially disassemble an axle or disassemble,
tie rods,
U-joint, tie rod, like any of those common breaks. And that's a whole separate video on things we've seen break on the trail. But on that same note, I have used this multiple times, not this specific one, obviously, but I can remember we had a guy break a power steering reservoir. Power steering fell right on his exhaust. Everything caught on fire, and he was stuck in a Jeep, couldn't get to his fire extinguisher, and 2 or 3 of us ran over with a fire extinguisher. So we have used those on the trail.
We've used multiple fire extinguishers.
Yes.
Even on Corey when we were in Moab.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he got on fire. Yeah, that's right. So see, multiple times we've needed that. Next is comms. So you want to take that over?
Yeah, so there's multiple different communication styles. Everyone's pretty much moved away from CB radios and gone to GMRS ham radios. So this is just your basic Baofeng handheld that you can get off of Amazon. You guys recently saw that I switched over to a rugged in-cab, rugged handhelds, but something so you can communicate between your group. And the other important part is we all have a screenshot of what the GMRS channels converted frequencies are.
Right.
So that way, even if you're just typing in a frequency and someone says, oh, we're on channel 22, you know what you're doing.
Because if you have a base unit, they only go in channels. So if someone's like, I'm on channel 7, and you go, what frequency is that? Well, I don't know. It just says 7 on my phone. So you kind of need to know that.
All right. Tread lightly. Take care of your trails. Bring trash bags with you. Everybody starts using the sackets now that hook in the back of your Jeeps. We always bring trash bags with us too, just in case. Pack it in, pack it out, leave it better than you found it.
You guys have seen us on multiple trails pick up everybody's trash, beer cans, everything like that. Just pack it in, pack it out.
And then the last thing, and probably one of the more important ones up there with the first aid and fire extinguisher kit, make sure you have spare lug nuts and the lug nut key that goes with your wheels. Because if you were to break a rim, debeat a tire, and we can't get it back on, have to switch out to your spare,
Yeah,
can't get your tire off, we have a big problem.
Right. Yeah, well, there's been a couple times on the trail where we've tried to just change a tire, something that's very simple, and they didn't have the key. So you're kind of SOL at that point.
Yeah.
I think one thing we skipped on our list was navigation. We use Onyx. You guys have seen us. We love that app. We've used Gaia in the past. We've used a couple others, but Onyx is our go-to. We've got that on our phones, and he and I, we got another video where we installed an AI Navi aftermarket radio head in the Jeeps, and it has CarPlay, so you can pull up Onyx, put it right on your dash, and then you got a huge map. You don't have to carry an iPad anymore. But if you wanted that option, they got an iPad or a iPhone app.
Yep.
Or just go with a guide. Find a club, especially if you're new, find a club in your local area, and they'll take you out. Just have some way to know where you are on the trails.
Yep, and I think that covers our top 10 list. So now we're going to interview Seth and deep dive into his Jeep and see what tools he brings with us that are necessities.
Okay, so you probably noticed that we only give you 9 items out of 10. The last one is a cooler. You're going to bring snacks and drinks and everything else. Do not drink on the trails. I think that's a given, but we see this happen a lot. Your sparkling water for Annie and water bottles and everything else. So there's your last of your 10. I'm going to kind of show you guys how I pack everything. Obviously, I have a ton of stuff in here. If you're just going out for a day trip, you don't need all this stuff. But if you're a moderate off-roader and you just kind of want to see what our setup is, that's what this part's for. So I've got the Moto built rack. This is actually for a TJ, but it's bigger and it fits more stuff for my JK. Camera bag. This, I'll go through all the bags here in a second, or all the boxes here in a second, but this is a more of an extreme bag. You'll see what's in there, grinder and some bigger stuff that I don't get to very often. I've got a box for just sockets and ratchets, another box that has all my bigger hand tools. Then I've got some molly bags with a first aid kit, some more recovery gear like that snatch block and gloves, and then just some basic air up tools. If you come around to the front, I have the poison spider cage. So a nice thing about that cage is it adds this bar up here so that, there you can see, you can put some stuff in here. So I used to have a tree saver in there, but once I bought the bigger one, it didn't fit. So now my soft shackles live up there. My fire extinguisher is on a quick release back here. So like I said, make sure that is accessible from the driver's seat. And then admittedly, my tree saver normally gets thrown in the back, and that's like one of the first things you grab when you need to winch. So I need to find a better place for that. So let's pull everything out of the back, and I'll kind of show you guys what's in each box. Okay, so I've been wheeling, we've all been wheeling for like almost 10 years now. And every time you're on a wheeling trip, somebody will break something and you're like, ooh, I don't have that in my kit. I don't have that connection, or I don't have that socket. So this looks like a ton of stuff. It is a ton of stuff. But if you've been wheeling for a while, you know that most of the stuff you've needed at least once. So that's the idea. I got so tired of, one, rattles, and two, never knowing where any of my sockets were. I used to get a big kind of like canvas bag and throw all this stuff in there. And then someone's like, I need a 10 millimeter, and God knows where it is. So I took the time, I went on Amazon and I bought just like the foam, I don't even know what this is called, like memory foam, cut everything out. So I've got one that is metric and another one that is standard with 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. So I've got literally everything, all the wrenches. All the wrenches are ratcheting wrenches because I don't know, wow, that one's broken. Of all the ones I could have added or grabbed, there we go, ratcheting wrench. So I took the time to finally organize this because I was so tired, but that is a basically full mechanic socket set sitting in a box. Hand tool wise, there's a little bit of everything in here. So I've got this main roll, and if I can hold this up for you guys, there are vice grips. I've had to use these on my Jeep and other people's Jeeps for broken brake lines. Broken brake lines, or you just don't have the right tool that you need at the moment and you turn it into a wrench. So some of these, like these guys, are great for pinching brake lines off because they're nice and pointy. So some vice grips. I've got some weird needle nose in there because you never really know when you need to get in to a certain spot. Just normal channel locks, some more needle nose. I've actually got a brake line bender in here. That's more of a, we're back at the trailer and I'm trying to fix a brake line. The concept behind all this was I need to fix what I need to keep wheeling for the best option, and option 2 is like, let's get it off the trail, and that's kind of what Mason's setup is for, is like get them back to the parking lot. So there's just some basic screwdrivers in here. I've got a bunch of picks. Again, I've needed them random times, you don't really know when. Like some wire cutters and another set of these are actually the electrical, like Deutsch connector disconnect pliers. So another weird thing that you're like, oh, I can't get that connector off and I can't fix whatever I need to fix. So that's kind of my main roll. And then I've got an electrical pack in here that has extra like 14 gauge wire in case you need something like that to get you off the trail. 14 is kind of that happy medium where it's not like for a starter, but for most things you can run a jumper wire. Crimpers, strippers, and then I've got some weird one-off stuff. Like I know that this wrench will take the U-joint bolts off of my rear drive shaft. So there are some one-off things that if you're gonna go through your Jeep, at a point in time, I had gone through, this was before the stretch, I had gone through the Jeep and I put a wrench on every single bolt, like every single one. And I wrote them all down, and I knew that like, hey, I don't need a 17 millimeter socket. So I went through and I whittled all this down, and then you're on the trail and the first time you're like, well, my stuff takes metric, but this guy's got a TJ and his takes standard. So I should have put all that standard stuff because he didn't bring any tools. So everything has kind of increased its quantity on this table. Punches, and I've got some brass punches in here because you can hit on stuff that's not going to damage what you're hitting on. And then a 1/2 inch impact. This is probably the thing that I use the most. I've got a test light, which is broken. Cool. Got to fix that. And then just your big hammers, manipulators. This is jam nuts. Like if you got adjustable control arms, you'll need that. And then your one-off sockets. So a 36 mil for a JK will take the axle nut off. 1 5/16 will also do that in a pinch, but it's more for like the pinion nut or the pitman arm nut, which you shouldn't really be touching, but I've got them in there. So that's just kind of like basic tools that I've got. And then because Corey has that Premier welder on his, and the three of us wheel together 99% of the time, I've kind of got some extra stuff for that instance where we would need to weld something. So I have a Cobalt battery grinder, and then there are some, like a cutoff wheel and a grinding wheel in here with a battery, some bigger zip ties, and then I actually bring with me a ball joint press. Not for ball joints, but for U-joints, because I've been on the trail and somebody breaks a U-joint, like on a drive shaft, and we turn into full Neanderthals and we use a rock and a hammer and we're just like trying to pound a U-joint out. And I'm like, guys, they make a tool for this. I'll just throw it in my Jeep. So that goes in there. Just some basic, like, clean your hand wipes, a ratchet strap. If you watched our video from Windrock, like last November, we used, 4 ratchet straps to hold Corey's axle together, which I was driving. So more ratchet straps that you have, the better. I got some brake fluid in here. I wish I could carry more fluid with me, but I just don't have any room. So brake fluid is kind of the one that I'm like, all right, the likelihood of me busting a brake line is higher than needing diff fluid or oil or something like that. So that's why I carry that. I do have a little bit of ATF in here, but it is only for my power steering because I just have the factory box, so it will take the same thing. So I'm not really putting it in a transmission. And then safety glasses, obviously, for the grinder and another U-joint. Right now, my front U-joints and all my drive shaft U-joints are 1350s, so I just have to carry one. So it's a ton of stuff. I use 50, 60% of it at least, but I'm always the guy that they're like, oh, I really wish I had that tool. And I'm like, I have a full mechanic set in the back of my Jeep. So it adds a lot of weight, but the Jeep does fine. So that's kind of my setup and how I kind of pack for a trip.
All right, so that wraps up all the tools that Seth brings with him on the trail. So Seth, what's one thing that you always have to have with you?
Always have to have is that 1/2-inch impact. We use that all the time. It's like you're taking a tire off. That's always like step one to fix anything, and that thing is awesome. So
okay,
that's my have to.
For the upcoming wheeler that wants to get into the harder stuff, what is something that is nice to have?
Nice to have is onboard air or some kind of air compressor. I've got air lockers, so I've got like the dual compressor ARB. But once you have onboard air, it's so nice. Okay. And then I had onboard air, and then you guys probably saw when you looked in the back of the Jeep, I had an orange just single hose, and then it takes like 5 minutes a tire. So then on top of that, I got the Morflate kind of octopus. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, I think you see us all. We all have the 4-tire inflator now.
Yeah, it's all 4 tires. You literally just turn it on, and it pumps everything up the same. So you don't have one at like 35 psi and one at 15. And Corey went one step further than that, and he has their new like electronic where you just set the psi and it pumps it up, and you walk away. So up and down. So those are that's nice to have.
Okay, and then as the Muricon evolves, what is something that you want to have in the Jeep?
Want to have? I have plenty. No, I would like to be able to carry more fluids. Okay. I'm out of room with the 2-door, but they make some kind of containers that fit over your fender or fender well. And my issue with that is I want everything strapped down in case I do roll over. I don't want stuff hitting me in the head, and those don't really have lids. So I kind of kept it at the minimum with the brake fluid and the ATF, but something to carry a little bit more fluids would be nice.
Okay, sounds fair.
Cool. All right, that is everything that I bring with me. Now you're going to see what Annie brings with her as a passenger.
All right, so Annie, our resident camera woman, fun haver, biggest supporter, trail guide. What do you bring with you?
Okay, so this one is for the ladies of the Jeep community, because I know that like what the guys, they roll out of bed and they get in the car and they go. It's not necessarily the case for me. So I have learned a lot over the years of like things to bring, things that I don't use, whatever. So here are my tips. Most of the time nowadays, I just wear my hiking boots because it makes sense. But if I know it's been like particularly rainy or, you know, we think there's gonna be a lot of mud, I always bring like my good mud boots. I will never forget our
good idea
trip to Drummond Island up in the UP of Michigan, and we literally like jumped out of the Jeep and I was like actually past my knees in snow. So and it was like sunny, so my feet would have absolutely been wet if I had not had my like tall rain boots. So these are not necessarily like an every trip, but I do try to at least put them in the truck and bring them with us just in case. In the same vein, I always bring a pair of extra socks like in my bag because I've definitely jumped out of the Jeep gung-ho into puddles before, and there's nothing more uncomfortable than having wet socks. So always bring wet socks. I am a girl after all. I also bring a hairbrush with me. I am who I am. But I also bang, so whatever. We also have a joke. What is our joke? That if I bring my hat.
If Annie brings a hat, it's not going to rain.
So I have definitely been in situations where we jump out of the Jeep and it's pouring rain or even just misting or something, and I don't have a jacket with a hood, something like that. Also not shown here, but I also recommend bringing a rain jacket if it's even like the slightest chance of rain. And then this is our camera bag, but
this
also
is Annie's bag.
Yes, Annie's snack bag. So I always bring lots of snacks. Number one, because obviously you're gonna have lunch on the trail most of the time. That's usually the only meal we have. But also, there have been many times where we have gotten stuck on the trail for 5-6 hours because somebody broke and they had to go, out, get a part, come back. That's happened more than once. So I always have lots of snacks. We're really lucky to have a cooler space now. So I feel like I always bring like a sparkling water or something that's like a little treat.
No hummus. Not allowed anymore.
We did have one time where we exploded some hummus. Hummus is not a recommended trail snack. Yeah. So I would avoid that, or anything with a lid like that can't be like clamped down unless you like repackage it into Tupperware, because Mason reached his hand down into the cooler and it was like, just melted water, melted ice, and hummus. That was pretty gross. Okay. My number one thing, this is going to sound maybe silly, but my number one thing that I always bring with me on the trail is a book. And here's why. I got burned on a trip years ago. Oftentimes you're in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service on these trails, which is totally fine. But someone broke, and it was the same situation where we were pretty much dead in the water. Obviously, you're not going to leave someone on the trail. It wasn't the Murakon that broke. It was somebody else. But they had to go out, get the guy apart, come all the way back. And that must have taken 4 hours.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Went out, got the part, broke another part, putting that one on, had to go back and get another one. Yeah, I think we were on that trail for about a good 7 or 8 hours.
It was a long time. It was dark, I think, by the time we got off. I had nothing to do because there was no cell phone service. There was, it was
August and it was hot.
It was hot. I candidly, I'm not helping you guys fix Jeeps. So always bring a book, whether that is a physical book or an ebook, or if you're even you're feeling crazy, you want to download some Netflix shows. Ideally, you won't ever have to pick it up, but there have been so many times when the guys are working on, and you've probably seen them in the videos, the guys are working on Jeeps and I'm just sitting off to the corner, either just reading if I'm not filming you guys. So I feel like that's a really big one. And then the two feels really obvious but often forgotten ones are sunscreen and bug spray. Our last trip I did forget my bug spray and I got 60 bug bites on my legs. It was so bad. Middle of summer. So I think those are my key essentials.
Okay. So on the next iteration of the Murakon,
very important.
Is there something that you want Seth to add to the Jeep that would make it better as a passenger?
Cooled seats, Seth. The girlies want cooled seats.
We got the heated seats.
Heated seats are a game changer, let me tell you, in the winter, but cooled seats would be great. And my guess is Seth is going to know that I'm going to say this, but actually just 2 more doors so that we can bring Ace. Because I feel like that would really, elevate the experience.
Okay, fair enough. So 4-door in the future. We'll see. All right. Is there anything else, Annie, that over the past couple years of us wheeling that you think you're forgetting or?
No, I think those are the biggest things. Ladies, if you're going, I always wear leggings or, something comfortable. We didn't even talk about that. Always dress comfortably. You guys you've seen me in the videos. I'm, stuff that I can, but I'm also camera angling and stuff. So I'm always in stuff that you're never going to see me in jeans on the trail. I'm in something that I can move around in quickly and easily because usually I'm just filming. Every once in a while, you're throwing me a winch cable or something. So I feel like those are the biggest things.
All right, Annie. Well, thank you for showing us everything that you bring as a passenger, as a camera woman, and our #1 fan. And we'll see you on the trail. All right. We went over what Seth carries in his Jeep, what Annie brings along as the passenger and camera woman. and now we're going to load up Ronin because I'm actually going to go wheeling tomorrow for the day with some friends. And a lot of the stuff that we carry is duplicates because we've all had very similar brakes or instances where we need the same tools. And we don't always wheel together, so it's nice to have your own set. A couple of specific things that I carry because of Ronin is some PSC steering fluid because he has the hydraulic assist setup, full PSC kit. And as most of our brakes, it happens once. You want to make sure you have the right tools. I have a complete set of PSC steering hoses as a backup. So if one of those were to ever break or rupture, or somebody else who has a PSC kit was to ever have that same issue, I have a complete set. We can thread them on in. I even have hydraulic sealant, so that way we can get you going again. And my whole goal of tools in the Jeep is, how do I get back to the parking lot? It's one of those of, if I break, I usually mentally, I'm just out of it. I don't want to do the trail anymore. Just get me back to the parking lot. So that's what this whole kit focuses around. I even have some RTV, diff fluid, brake fluid, engine oil, and that all stays in this pack out box here. This pack out box is all my basic hand tools, electrical kit, tire repair kit, and my winch controls. They all stay in this pack out box. And then in this pack out box, I'm going to go through pretty in depth. These are specific tools for specific brakes that I kind of want to go over with everyone. All right, so you're a couple years into wheeling. You decide I want to do 1-ton swap. You decide I want to do junkyard 1-tons. So you put Ford and Chevy together and make a Jeep. Well, with that comes a lot of specific tools dedicated to how do I break, if I break an axle, how do I fix it? Or if I break a tie rod, bend a tie rod, any sort of those brakes, that's what this pack out box is all about. So the tiniest little 8mm 12-point socket, because that's what my diff cover takes. Splined wheel key, because that way we can take off tires. My 14-bolt axle hub nut, splined and ground down to fit, so that way we can take the entire hub off if we ever had to. And then these are for the Ford axle nut, as well as a Pitman arm, and the most expensive pair of snap ring pliers I've ever purchased. I think these were like $65 in order to get the snap ring out of the hub. It's annoying, but I'd rather have these and not need them. So again, all these are how do I get things apart so I can make a Band-Aid and get back to the parking lot. All right, so the last couple boxes I have are the ones that stay up front because these are the quick grab things that you'll always need. My Morflate air down kit, kinetic rope, tree saver. I always carry hard shackles with me. I have a couple soft shackles in the Jeep, my winch controller, and then on top of this sits kind of the emergency kit as well as a quick diagnosis kit. So I always carry a multimeter on me. It's come in handy just like a test light would, that a locker's not working or your switch panel goes out, whatever you need. I always keep my multimeter very handy. And then my first aid kit and spare radio stay here. I do have the onboard radio with rugged. However, I always keep a handheld just in case anything were to ever happen. And then another important thing, because I wheel with half doors almost exclusively, is I keep a poncho with me because if it starts raining, I hate being wet and cold. So I carry a poncho with me just in case. So this is what the whole kit looks like in the back of the Jeep. And then I put my cooler over here. So that's 2 fully loaded Jeeps ready to go hit the trails. As always, you can find us at tbnoffroad.com, Facebook and Instagram at tbnoffroad. We're working on the 2026 schedule as well as new merch drop in 2026. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.